May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my Redeemer. So this week we have skipped forward a few generations from last week's reading. The sons of Jacob are having conflict a whole lot like Jacob has with his brother. There's some bullying that goes on, and in the midst of all this conflict, where it kind of winds up is with Joseph, the black sheep of the brothers, as a ruler among Egypt, as a ruler in Egypt. And in a time of famine, his brothers, who at one point persecuted him, come to him seeking his aid. They wind up being welcomed in Egypt as refugees, as asylum seekers. They become a people there, a whole race there. But then as that generation dies, a new ruler comes who does not keep the promises that a nation makes to their refugees and asylum seekers. That new ruler is bothered by the Hebrew people. He seeks to eliminate them. And he doesn't even actually have to do much work to eliminate them, you see, because he just kind of drums up fear among the people, and then they all become taskmasters. Thousands of taskmasters come up to persecute the Hebrew people. But two Hebrew women, midwives, they at one point are told to play a part in this genocide. And they find a clever way to say no. They use Pharaoh's fearful lies that the Hebrew people are strong and violent against him. They say, oh, these Hebrew women are so strong, they give birth before midwives can even arrive. Eventually, this will lead to the story of Moses, the liberator of the Hebrew people, being preserved when he shouldn't have been at birth. Well, because these two Hebrew women, the vulnerable among the vulnerable, said no. During the late 80s and early 90s, not even a generation ago, amidst civil war in Somalia, the U.S. began welcoming a great number of Somali refugees. They came here and made a home here. But then a new leader came who did not trust these refugees. He sought to eliminate them. And he didn't even have to do that much work for that. He could go on TV and say they were, quote, garbage people who should, quote, go back to where they came from. That is a real quote from the real leader in question. Then thousands of people would sign up to become taskmasters, infiltrating the cities where they were settled and harassing them, even their descendants who were citizens, not refugees. And for the past few weeks, we have been watching, in Minneapolis in particular, as conflict plays out between taskmasters and those who would play the role of Shifra and Puah. The United Church of Christ has a seminary in the Twin Cities. I know personally many people who are present in that space. We are a diverse and pluralistic church, and I truly, sincerely believe that the politics of Jesus are quite foreign to the electoral politics that we practice. So you won't often hear me condemn specific political actors or movements from the pulpit. And that is still largely true. But part of the job of a pastor is to provide a voice of moral clarity. And in this present moment, I need to be morally clear about a few things. One, it is wrong to lie. It is wrong to lie and say that immigrants are eating cats and dogs. It is wrong to lie about what we all saw in a video where a woman was driving away from an ICE officer who then shot her 3 times. It is wrong to break promises, like the promises we make to refugees or the promises that we make to uphold the rule of law. It is wrong to kill people who anger you. Like I mentioned earlier, it is wrong to approach the car of a woman who is doing nothing besides being in the way with one hand on your cell phone and another on a gun. Order her to get out of her car while your colleagues are ordering her to drive away. And then when she, in confusion, drives away, to shoot her 3 times and call her a slur. It is wrong to pressure federal prosecutors to invent a reason for this killing with such imaginary sources that 6 federal prosecutors resigned in succession rather than bring charges against her widow. It is wrong to kidnap a man on his lunch break, place him in a chokehold, then force him into the back of an unmarked car while refusing to listen to him as he attempts to prove his citizenship. It is wrong to do the same to a 16-year-old boy on his way to school, and it is even more wrong to then steal the cell phone that he used to record his assault and sell it at a mall vending machine in hopes that the machine would erase his phone so no evidence could be found. It is wrong to literally terrorize neighborhoods by conducting violent raids in school pickup and drop-off lines, using chemical agents on bystanders, including students and teachers, leading to a week-long closure of schools across an entire city. It is wrong to pull an immigrant parent from their car, arrest them, and leave their child crying in the back seat for a local police officer to find later. It is wrong to surround an Uber driver, interrogate him, and then when he asks why he is being interrogated, respond, "Because you have a different accent than me." It is wrong to pepper spray a pastor as he peacefully protests, then arrest him, interrogate him, release him, and say, and I quote, "You're white, you wouldn't have been fun anyways." It is wrong to detain a legal observer, handcuff her, place her in her car, then tell her, "Haven't you learned your lesson yet? This is why the lesbian BITCH is dead." It is wrong to offer a detained citizen bribes for sharing the names of his undocumented neighbors or the people who organized a protest he was at. It is wrong to go door to door in Minneapolis neighborhoods asking, quote, "where the Asians are." I could go on and on and on. These are all carefully sourced, real stories reported by real people living in Minneapolis, in many cases recorded on video and shared by mainstream news outlets. There is a lot wrong right now. There are a lot of taskmasters. It is also important to say that there is a lot going right. There are a number of Shifras and Puas out there. I mentioned earlier the 6 federal prosecutors who resigned in succession rather than invent charges against Renee Good's widow. We are told by this administration that so-called gangs of suburban wine moms are making grocery runs for undocumented neighbors, hiding DoorDash drivers in their closets, and distracting ICE officers with chants and taunts and whistles so that people can get away from them. Clergy from across the nation are traveling to Minneapolis this week to make a principled, faithful stand, refusing to allow the violence of Christian nationalism to baptize an evil cultural change. Here, locally, a number of clergy and lay people from all different faith traditions are gathering at the Otay Mesa Detention Center at 1:30 p.m. for a vigil in honor of the Reverend Dr. King. You are invited to join me there, I should say. So we see taskmasters and we see Shifra and Pua. And I should say that if there were morally neutral people in the Exodus story, we do not get to hear about them. We aren't told that there are people who stood back and did nothing and then kind of picked up the story later on. We hear about taskmasters, about people who abuse the Israelites, and we hear about liberators. The story does not seem to have room for or interest in passive acceptance. Many of us, maybe depending on how you interpret things, all of us, are being asked in the present moment or maybe sometime soon how we would participate in the transformation of our culture and nation. We are being asked whether we will be taskmasters or Shifra and Pua. Maybe that is happening in a way that feels very present and obvious to you. Maybe you are like one of the 6 federal prosecutors who is given a specific request that you can specifically say no to. Maybe you are being asked to create weapons for use against the American people. I don't know. We've got a lot of folks here. Or maybe this is happening to you in a less obvious way. Maybe the way that you are being asked to participate in this horror is by being a silent consenter, someone who enables the violence of authoritarianism by giving it the implicit permission that comes from ignorance. When that time came for Shifra and Pua, when they were offered, or rather instructed, to participate in this genocide, they found a way to say no, to protect their own people. I suspect it was scary for them. They had to lie to Pharaoh. They had to assume he was dumb enough to believe that women being strong meant their labor was brief. And I don't know, maybe we've got some dumb leaders today too. But they did it. They did a scary thing. And their clever no started the chain reaction that led to their ultimate liberation. My hope, with all of my being, is that when you get the chance to be Shifra and Pua or to be a taskmaster, when you hear hateful rhetoric, and maybe even when you hear a specific invitation to harm your neighbor, that you will make the faithful choice, that you will find a way to say no, that you will choose to protect God's people. Amen.